Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. My guest today is Cate Zoltan, co founder and CEO of the Undo app. The Undo app helps users learn more about the body mind connection and the basic functionality of the human body. It is designed to help people become more attuned to their physical and mental health and aid them in their self healing journey. Undo offers a unique form of meditation called natural meditation, based on the life work of Kate's husband and business partner, Matthew Zoltan. Since the late 1980s in Australia, Matthew has been a pioneer in the body mind connection, achieving remarkable results with this approach. So, welcome, Cate, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Yeah, very nice to be here. Thanks, Claudia.
Looking forward to this. So, Cate, I read that you worked as a high end chef for nearly 25 years. So, why did you become a chef in the first place? What was your cooking philosophy like? And why did you leave that career path behind? So many
Oh, wow.
questions.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually, the one that I rarely get asked. So I'm very happy to answer it. When I originally decided to become a chef, I was at high school and I knew I didn't want to go to university. I was in year 12 and I just didn't know what career path I wanted to take. I thought, I want to be a truck driver. And my mum was like, no, you can't be a truck driver. There's no way you can be a truck driver. You need to get a trade. So she told me I had to then get a trade. So I was like, okay, I'll be a mechanic so I can fix my truck. So, high ambitions back at that age. And so eventually I decided I didn't want to be a mechanic. And my brother had trained as a chef, as a professional chef, and I used to grab him every time he came home from school, like he's training for cooking school, and tell him and get him to create what he'd learnt in his class during the day and just hassle the hell out of him. And eventually I realized that for me, cooking was kind of like breathing. So I was just an absolute natural at it. So I figured, well, I really enjoy it and I really want to travel. So I'll take that up as a profession. So I did an apprenticeship as a chef for 4 years and then just started working in high-end restaurants and hotels, and then traveled around Europe for a few years, and then just traveled all over Australia. And it was actually a very good decision making that decision to become a chef. And so that's why I became a chef, and has held me in good stead due to the discipline, and the stress side of it was just super intense. Like, people who don't work in restaurants and under that amount of stress every single day, like day after day after day, and twice a day usually. Some restaurants I worked in, they had 2 or 3 sittings in an evening, so that huge stress period was repeated. And so you learn to streamline things very quickly, and your timing becomes absolutely impeccable. So there's many things that you learn working in it, also within the hierarchy of the kitchen brigade, and then you learn all the technical sort of French language from the culinary perspective. And so there's many different facets of it that have really helped me in good stead throughout my life, that I was happy to have done, been a chef for that many years. And also the teaching aspect as well, I was very good. I had a vegetarian cooking school, which I ran for a few years, and really enjoyed transferring my knowledge and information to others who didn't find it so easy to cook, if you like. So it was an interesting journey. But did that answer all your questions? I can't remember all of them now.
Most of them. So the last one that maybe remains is, what was your cooking philosophy like? So did you focus on vegetarian food specifically, or like what was the philosophy behind your cooking style?
Yeah, so I was classically trained, and so that means a French style. You call that classically trained, and I actually sort of specialised, but not on purpose, in seafood and fish. Whereas, because there's so much seafood, and like there's a third generation seafood restaurants in Australia because of obviously we're surrounded by this amazing oceans. So I kind of specialized in that, but then I never really ate meat myself as I was from any age as a child. And then once I met Matthew, I decided, well, actually, I didn't decide. My body decided that I would become vegetarian. I literally could not swallow fish, seafood, anything that had eyes, I couldn't swallow. So I was forced to become a vegetarian. And during that time period, I went through a period. I was like, but I'm so limited now. And then by what I could cook, because now I can't cook, can't cook with meat or fish. But in actual fact, what that did, that limitation actually broadened the way I could cook. And it gave me a freedom that I was able to then begin experimenting with all these amazing grains and fresh produce and herbs and spices and all of these amazing ingredients that I hadn't really given credit to, due to the fact that it was always, everything was always like the meat was the first thing that you decided to use in your meal. So it changed, and this is how my philosophy came about, and it turned the way that I cooked into this style that I just hadn't had before. So I actually have like a style of my own that is my cooking, which is always based around a particular ingredient. And then I just build and layer and then just add different spices or flavors and there's a running theme through it. So there's a lot of different levels when you eat my food, but everything always retains its own original and essential flavor, I would say, or predominant flavor. So in that way, that's what I would say is my philosophy, the way that my style of cooking. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. It sounds amazing. And I always find it so fascinating to think about how some constraints, like if you put a positive constraint on something, it can just explode your creativity. So in the beginning, we always think like, oh, there's a constraint, which is a bad thing. But then it forces you to become so much more creative. And that's a good thing, right? So I
Yeah,
really like how
definitely.
you turned that around. So why and how did meditation enter your world then?
Yeah, so when I was around about 27, I was not traveling too well, and I had been changing jobs, doing many different jobs, and really running, I felt, from myself and the feelings inside of myself. And I didn't know why. I just knew that I wasn't happy. I was quite depressed, and I was very, very angry, and I was a bit of a wild child. So a friend suggested that I go on a meditation retreat, and that was the natural meditation. I had tried Buddhist and like Tibetan and visualization sort of meditations, but they didn't really resonate with me. So I ended up doing the natural meditation, and then during that period, because the understanding that I learned, and the philosophy, I guess, that Matthew, or the approach to meditation that Matthew was teaching, it really resonated deeply with me, and I was able to really then start healing my deep pain. And from healing that deep pain, I realized that it had given me my power back and also healed the mental illness. And it was through this approach that then I realized that this information is not available in the world at all. So that's when I started getting a lot more, I guess, passionate about the actual approach to meditation. And that's why we ended up building the app, because I wanted to get it out to a broader base of people, as opposed to just like a local base of people. So yeah, that's how I got into meditation.
It sounds like it's been super helpful for you personally. But if you zoom out a little, why do you think in general meditation is so important in today's world? How has it changed your life, and how can you see it changing the lives of other people as well?
Well, I can only talk for natural meditation. So I'm only talking about natural meditation. I don't think that the other meditations have this same effect as the natural meditation. for various reasons, which I won't go into here. But the main thing it has done for me is it's given me a grounding in my body and a sense of myself that over time has just become unshakable. And by that becoming unshakable, it's enabled me to really know what thoughts are my own and what influences are coming at me. It also allows me to know exactly where I'm coming from, whether that's conscious or unconscious, because I can see through my actions if something's harming somebody, then whether I am conscious of that or not, I can see my actions. So if it's unconscious, then I want to know about it, so I can go deeper into my feelings and understanding of myself to uncover that within myself. So the other thing that I would say the meditation has given me is just an ability to relax into myself and just to be myself and be confident in what I do. And that transfers a lot into my business. So I don't run my business the way that a normal person should, apparently run their business. So it's given me that. But the other thing I would say that it's given me is a real fearlessness of sorts, I wouldn't say recklessness, definitely not a recklessness, but more of a fearlessness for life and a passion for life that has been recovered from healing so much pain and so much illness and so much trauma out of my system, that I'm just fully confident that this body that I am can just heal anything. And not having that fear about being hurt or being able to recover from pain from a relationship or harm from a friend or the ups and downs in business, knowing that you're able to recover from all of those things in life on a day basis. Some of them obviously take longer than a day to recover from,
Sure.
the bigger things, but knowing that, it really gives you I think it really gives you a confidence that most people don't have. I see most people don't have this. So like when you get injured or something and
Mm.
you go to the doctor, or if you've got some depression or something, I don't just immediately go to the doctor, or I don't immediately go to the psychiatrist, or I don't take drugs. I rarely take drugs. I found other ways to heal myself, and most of that comes from this natural meditation, because it really is a body-based approach that reconnects the body and the mind, and we treat the body and the mind as exactly the same thing. So whatever happens in life, you just have this trust in yourself and trust in your body, and also life in itself as well, that you will just heal and you'll just recover, and whatever happens, it's just part of my life, and that's how I'm living, and this is what's happening to me now. So there's no real drama and there's no real extra stress, I would say, that you put on yourself to be a different way or act a different way, or speed up the healing process or recover faster, all of those things, they add up to a lot, actually. and so I don't take that for granted, and as I said, I'm not reckless with myself, but I'm just more responsible, but more resilient and more confident. Yeah, definitely more confident with myself and my life. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that confidence and resilience. I think they are so important. And I think you mentioned something else that I see a lot, which is that people nowadays seem to be unable to be by themselves and just be comfortable being by themselves. They seem to always look for the next distraction to avoid being by themselves. And I think that's something that we have to relearn, maybe. To just be with those feelings, even though there might be uncomfortable feelings that come up for you, and just knowing that you can get through them, you can face them and still be okay. I think that's something that people need to learn again, or be taught in the first place if they've never learned how to do that. Now, we've talked about natural meditation a little bit, but maybe it's time to define what this means. So, for people who don't know what that form of meditation is like, can you explain what it is and what you do?
Yeah, so it's very different from traditional and technique-based meditations in that it's not based in thought. So it's not about thinking. It's not. There's nothing to do with visualization. There is no mantra. There's no thinking that as such, or there's no goal that you're to achieve, or a state that you are trying to achieve. So, from that perspective, it sounds quite boring and dull, but it's actually not. It's a purely body based meditation. So, the way that you do that is you literally just sit still, you close your eyes, sit still as you possibly can in a comfortable upright position, and then you kind of just sit there and wait for whatever feeling or sensation arises in your body, and you just feel whichever one is the most predominant. And there's no goal to achieve it, to change that feeling. There's no goal to make it any different. There's no goal to push it away or fix it. You are literally just feeling the sensation. And then through that sensation, you understand more deeply how you're feeling that day. And that sounds pretty simple, and it is very, very simple. But then over time, as you meditate more, you'll find that, as you mentioned before, you're trying to distract from this feeling. So then you start learning about you start understanding your thoughts and your thinking, and how you find it hard to sit still, and it might be a struggle to sit still. But then you just keep coming back to the feelings in your body, and you just keep feeling them. And if you keep feeling them, then they resolve. And once they resolve, and that's that first kind of aha moment, as soon as you have a feeling or a pain, and say you're sitting and you've got a pain in your knee, and it resolves because you just simply feel the feeling of the pain rather than uh, react to it or avoid it or judge it, then once you have this moment that you realize that you're, as soon as you feel your feelings, that they resolve, then it's kind of like you're off and running. Then you're like, oh, okay, this is what feelings are for. So we've had, on retreat, when Matthew and I have been running retreats for over 30 years, or Matthew for over 40 years, people just, if they get sick, if they're on retreat or something, they can actually feel the feeling of what it feels like to have a fever. And then generally, or occasionally, what's happened is the fever will dissipate because they've actually felt the feeling behind it. So it's this massive understanding that you get of your body and your system and the way that you operate in all its simplicity, in all its ordinariness. But by connecting the body and the mind together with that, then you're actually deeply, deeply reconnecting with yourself, and you're not excluding any parts of yourself. So whether it's painful, or whether it's happy, or whether you're sad or distressed or frustrated or angry and annoyed, you're including all of that in your meditation. So it's not this calm, peaceful meditation as they're promoting with all the other types of meditation. Meditation is about whatever is going on for you, whatever is going on in your system in that moment that you are actually sitting still. And then as you get more and more practiced at this type of meditation, you stay with your feelings throughout the day, and you're able to work and live and stay connected with yourself. And that means if you're connected with yourself, you're connected with the world outside of you, you're connected with others as well, or your partner or your friends or anybody that you come into contact with throughout the day. And you're able to just process the feelings that come up on a day-by-day basis. So if you get stressed or you're anxious or nervous for a podcast or in a meeting or something, you're able to process all of that. So you're actually able to then keep up with yourself rather than at the end of the day, you go home, it's like, oh, what a big day I've had. And you've got to process the whole day. So it's like you're just able to keep up with yourself throughout the whole of the day and resolve it on the go rather than, leaving it to a block of time on the meditation when you have at the end of the day or in the morning. I mean, certainly you still want to sit because it's such a fulfilling way to meditate. But you're able to process most of the things that go on throughout the day. So it's a very healing, actually it's a very healing approach, and it's self-healing and at its best, and also it's like a preventative healthcare as well, because if you're able to deal with all of the stress, then this doesn't manifest as illness and pains and all sorts of things, injuries and afflictions in your body.
So it sounds like you're getting out of your head and you learn to be very present in your body again and just reconnect with those feelings. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you say to people who might be afraid of, confronting challenging emotions that might come up for them?
I would say that you should probably question where you've learnt that belief that you shouldn't be, that you can't feel your feelings or you don't want to feel your feelings. When we come across distressing feelings, there is, and especially if they're deep trauma feelings, there is a lot of fear around feeling those feelings. But that isn't actually the feeling. That is the thought reaction that surrounds that feeling. So if you don't get stuck on the reaction, and if you don't get stuck on the judgment or the bias that you have about that feeling, and over time you can get back to the pure sensation of that feeling. And once you feel that, then it actually resolves. As I'll go back and talk a little bit more about the reaction side of the feeling, which you mentioned, emotion. So the way I see it is we have thoughts and we have feelings, and emotions are not feelings. So the way I see it is emotions and feelings are two completely separate things.
Okay. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So emotions is, so we have the pure feeling of a traumatic event, and that is simply a sensation in our body. If we react to that feeling, then we've mixed feeling and reaction. So when we mix feeling and reaction, then we create emotion. And if we start feeling the emotion or the emotional side of feelings, then we just get stuck on a loop in that emotion. So that's why we always need, there's quite a lot of education with this particular approach, especially around reaction and judgment and beliefs and ideas. And you'll find all of that in the app. But and I know that it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy to do this part, but if you can get past the reaction or understand the reaction, not buy into the reaction, which is, by reaction I mean the story or the thought process or the belief or the idea that is connected to a feeling. If you can get past that reaction part, then you, as I mentioned, you get back to the original feeling. And once you get back to the original feeling, it dissipates by feeling it. So you resolve things. Feelings are meant to be felt. So feelings are not meant to be thought about. So if you're thinking about your feelings, you're not feeling your feelings. And by thinking about your feelings, that's what I would call thinking about your feelings is reacting, and that's not a bad thing. That's just there isn't the depth of understanding about the way that we operate as a human being who has pain and painful feelings. So if we can understand the depths of our feelings, then we can get back to those feelings and just, as I mentioned, just simply feel them. And by simply feeling them without the thought, without the reaction, then we can start resolving it. It's sort of like we've got to get out of our own way through thinking about things and just come back to the body and let the body do the work. So this natural meditation is really just trying to get the thought process out of the way, trying to get our reactions to ourselves out of the way, and just let the body get on with what it does best. And what it does best is tries to keep us in peak condition, keep us in optimal health, and to heal whatever pain is present within our body. So that's what this natural meditation is about, just trying to get back to that and trying to get, like I said, all those thought processes and reactions and biases and judgments and beliefs. We're trying to get all of that out of the way, which is, how
hard can it be, right?
how I get it. No, it's a process, and it's a lifestyle. It's not meditation. You can't just do it in a day and say, "Oh, I'm enlightened because I've meditated." No, it's a lifestyle. It's something that you're going to want to do for the health of your body and for the health of the world. Really, once you understand what this approach is about, you take it on, once your body starts resonating with the information that's part of the education of this natural meditation. You take it on. Like, generally people take it on and they're like, oh my God, this is such a relief. Why didn't people tell me this before? That puts all your loose ends that are on you, on a piece of rope. They all get kind of tied off, and all the pieces of the puzzle just kind of fit together, because you're wandering around, or most people are wandering around with all these ideas, and it's that you pick up through life, that there's something in it. There's some raw truth in it, but you can't quite figure it out. And that's what it was like for me when I first started listening to Matthew and doing his retreats. I'd read a lot of philosophical books and a lot of, like I'd read the Buddhist meditations and all of this kind of thing. And I had some ideas, and you just retain these certain pieces of information that that they're significant, but you don't know how to put it all together. And with this natural meditation, it puts all of it together. So you're like, that's what they mean when they say that in the Bible, or that's what they mean when they say that in, I don't know, some magazine or whatever you're reading. It's some deep comments that they're making, and they resonate with you through life. So it puts all that together for you into more of a comprehensive approach, but it's relevant to you and your uniqueness and your individuality. So it's in that way, it's very freeing, but also very tailored specifically to you and your needs and wants.
So it sounds like you're focusing on the feelings and you're trying to separate them from the judgments and the stories and the beliefs, so that the body can really work through whatever it is that you need to work through. Is that about right?
I wouldn't say separate, no, because
Okay.
no. You're simply trying to understand and see through the illusion that it's creating. So I'm just trying to think of an example of a reaction that you would be having. So let me try and think of an example. So I guess it would be like, I guess it would be like blaming people and projecting.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not in touch with a feeling, you're in reaction to a feeling. Reaction very quickly turns into projection. And so if you're thinking that you're angry about something because somebody's just triggered you, and you're blaming that person for triggering you because you're angry, really, it wouldn't matter who it was who triggered you. You're angry anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So by disconnecting from that feeling, you're not really getting to the root of why you're angry.
Yeah, that makes.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so I think that answers the question actually. So if you're disconnecting from the feeling and not wanting it to be different or wanting it to be different, then it's not allowing you to actually get back to the feeling.
Right.
And so that's what I mean by disconnect. You don't want to disconnect from it, but then from there you then need to understand that it's your anger and you need to understand that anger. So by understanding why you're angry, usually what you find is that there is a sadness or um, a more grounding, I guess, feeling beneath that anger. So anger is sort of like the superficial, and it's easy to get angry and frustrated
Mm.
and disconnect from your feelings. But if you get down to the lower level of feeling, which is, the sadness or upset or
Some form of
uh,
hurt.
yeah, the hurt that is behind the
Yeah.
anger, then you're not disconnecting from the feeling. So yeah, and in that way, that is understanding yourself rather than
Mm.
just believing in the anger or believing your story that that person has caused my anger, because that person can't really cause your anger unless there is anger in you.
Right.
When
So,
it's that deep anger, I mean, not
yeah.
sometimes people really do make you angry, but when it's that really deep anger that you know that you are way too angry for what they have actually, triggered in you.
Right. So really understanding your emotional injuries, if you want, and understanding how you react and how people trigger you and what you do as a reaction to
Mm.
those behaviors. Something we have mentioned quite a few times, but we haven't really defined so far is what is the body mind connection and why is it, in your opinion, the ultimate way to unlock self healing?
Yeah, so the body mind connection really is treating the mental and the physical as one. So that's mental health or mental illness, or physical health and physical illness as one. So one and the same thing. From my understanding of the body mind connection, the reason why it is so important is because as soon as we disconnect, as soon as we go into that reaction, as we've just been talking about, that's where all the harm gets done. And it's not a fault of the human being, or it's not a fault of anyone. It's really because we haven't had the education to understand how to stay connected. And in certain situations, like trauma situations, it's a natural
Mm.
response of the body to disconnect because it's just too harmful for us to take at the time. So there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with how we're behaving and how we are as a species. It's just how we are. With the body mind connection, it's the disassociation or the disconnection from ourselves and our feelings which causes the tensions to occur in our body. And it's the tensions that occur in our body which then ultimately manifest as pain or illness or suffering of, the multitudes of suffering that we cause ourselves. So that's why I say that the body mind connection is ultimately I would say it's the only way to truly and completely heal. Because you can think about things and analyze things, but you don't really get to the bottom of things through thinking. You can't fight a fire with more fuel. So by analyzing and talking about your thinking and trying to solve your problems through thinking about them, you're just never going to get anywhere. You can't win. There's
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think you always have to approach healing from both sides, the mind and the body, because in the end, you're one person.
yeah,
You're just one person.
yes, exactly. We are one person. And as soon as we die, our mind dies. So it's over. So we can't disconnect the two. They're from my understanding, from the amount of retreats I've sat on, it is the all thinking comes from the body. And there's an overactivity of thinking in our society at the moment due to the technology and the amount of information that we've got. But there is a quieter feeling, or there is a quieter thinking that is the essence of the body. And that's what I'm talking about here, is where I'm trying to always come back to this and be able to be quiet enough to listen to the talking, I feel like, or the thinking of the body, because it's the thinking of the body which is related directly to you, and which is also has the answers for you in any problem that you've got in life. And it's the body that you can use to navigate your life and to drive your business or drive the direction that you want to take your life. It's you listening to yourself and hearing what your body has to say about you and the way that you live your life. I hope this doesn't sound too woo-woo, what I'm talking about, but this is how I drive my business and live my life. I let my body have as much say as my thinking, if you like, because the thinking generally that gets us into trouble. It's the thinking that is the reckless one. It's the thinking that has no responsibility, whereas it's our body that ultimately is the one who's left to wear the illness, or who has to get over the mental illness. Even anxiety and many mental illness are physically felt in the body. So
Definitely. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do on a daily basis to stay happy, healthy, and productive? Can you walk us through a typical day in your life?
Yeah, so usually I get up. I try to not get up with an alarm, so because I don't
Mhm.
like that shock of
Yeah.
waking up. I usually just get up and meditate for an hour. I generally meditate for an hour every day. I just find I have a lot more energy throughout the day if I have meditated in the morning. So I do that, and then I do a few little at the moment I do different things actually. At the moment I'm just doing like a little lymphatic drainage thing that I
Mhm.
learned on another podcast, and a friend of mine as well who Matthew's been on his podcast. So I do that, and then I don't have breakfast, so I just get straight into work, and then I usually work, and then after a few hours, then I like to break my day up at the moment. And because I'm close to the beach, so I really like to go down the beach for a swim or a run, or like a long swim, an ocean swim. And so I break my day up with that, or the gym. And then, so that's an hour or an hour and a half, depending if it's sunny, then I sunbake for a little while. And that just gives me a feeling in the middle of the day that I'm actually on holidays. And that's a really important feeling for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not on holiday, so I do work very hard, but I like to have that feeling. And also because of the time differences at the moment, I'm doing a lot of early meetings and a lot of late meetings, so
Right.
because of Europe and US and UK. So I just take advantage of that. So I'm kind of working. I'm split my day into two, which is what I used to do as a chef. I used to do split shifts, and then I just work through till the evening, and then usually cook my dinner and read a book and go to bed, or just sit around and chat with the people. I live with Matthew and my daughter, and we have some pretty interesting conversations most nights as well. So yeah, so that's what I tend to do, and then I like hiking and just catching up with friends and yeah, just always trying to get into nature really as well. So I
Sounds
think,
great.
yeah, so nothing super amazing that I can think of, but I eat very well, obviously, and I eat very clean as well. And that makes a big difference. And I always try to stay hydrated. And then I have certain amino acids and protein. I try and keep my protein intake up pretty high, and always, 3 times a week I'm in the gym and I work out pretty hard. And yeah, I just, yeah, but if I'm tired, some days I'm tired, then I'll just let myself go and have a little sleep in the afternoon, or sometimes I don't sleep well because it's not easy running a business, especially a tech
Mm-hmm.
business. It's quite stressful. So I always allow myself the space to recover, or just to um, take the time to allow my system to process things. So I generally have a bit of downtime where I can just process stuff without doing anything. What I would tend to do is just either just go and lie on my bed, or find a nice view somewhere, or sit down the beach and just, I just sit there with my eyes open and just give myself that space and time to just let things process through. And in that way, I try not to stress about problems or difficulties I'm having in the business. I just tend to just feel them, and then the solution just comes out of that. And I don't always just, the other thing I don't do is just, if I feel distressed, I don't necessarily jump on it straight away and try and fix it. I would, especially if it involves one of the team or something like that, I would just let it ride out a little bit, as opposed to jumping on it and trying to control things. I prefer to let things have their own natural flow, and I prefer to let people have their own natural flow as well. I don't like to stifle people. I mean, obviously we've got to get things done and we have goals and things like that, but yeah, I prefer to let things flow as much as I can, and kind of let life take me, rather than me trying to control life.
That sounds amazing. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Um,
Or did we cover everything?
we did cover a lot, didn't we? I'm sure there is something I should have should have probably been mentioning, but nothing comes to mind.
That, that's totally fine.
Is
I just wanted to give
it?
you the chance. If there's something on your mind that I did not touch on, or something that you wanted to mention, this would be the time.
Yeah, I think the main thing it usually is, that I just like to recap, is for people to, or I'd like people to know that the way they do business, the way you do business, is unique to you. And also the way that your business grows is, it's a true expression of yourself. So by stifling yourself and not understanding yourself and knowing where you're coming from, it really has an impact in how your business works, I think.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think I wanted to talk a bit more about that, where you're coming from, it's a difficult thing to know because we're so entrenched in our pain, and so entrenched in our ideas and difficulties that they sometimes become so familiar that you can't recognize that they're there, and quite often you don't even know where you're coming from, and you don't know what is driving you. So I do spend a lot of time, not a lot of time, but regularly, I question where am I coming from and what is driving me to push this business in this direction or that direction, or what's driving me to make this decision or that decision. And I do that throughout the week, I would say, not on a day-to-day basis, but throughout the week. I'm genuinely questioning myself. Where am I coming from, and where is this going to take me? And is it really, really what I want? And is this for the good of humanity, or is this for the good of me only, or is this for the good of what I think people want to see from me, or is this for the good of what I expect people expect from me? Because that's not about me, that's about them. That's not anything to do with me. So yeah, so I would just put that out there, just to that question of where am I coming from, why am I doing this, and is this the best way to do things for me, related directly back to me.
It's so important. I always say that entrepreneurship is kind of like the biggest self-development journey you can be on, because you have to ask those questions constantly if you want to avoid getting stuck in your business, as well as in your own self-development journey, if you want, if you like. Now, last but not least, where can our listeners find you online if they would like to learn more about you or connect with you?
Yeah, so I like LinkedIn actually as a social media profile. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on there when I'm able to be. But we have a website which is undoapp.com, and there's also a website for the retreat business that I run, which is quietretreats.co. And then we've got a few quizzes out there as well for people to try if they want to. It's a test your mental fitness quiz. And yeah, so all of that kind of comes through to us. And then we've got webinars that we run from those as well. And we're just trying to get out there in terms of expanding our reach. And yeah, so, and also the app, of course, you can download the app from the website. So everything, not everything, I don't answer every email, but it all generally comes back to me. So if you want to get in contact with me, somebody will tell me if you want to get in contact with me, but LinkedIn's probably the best.
Fantastic. Cate, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it's great conversation and really interesting questions. I hope your audience like it.
I'm sure they will. Take care and talk soon. Bye.
Yeah, thanks.